Hey there, adventurers. Welcome to Top List Passport, the channel where we explore the world one fascinating list at a time.
From breathtaking destinations and cultural hotspots to quirky, off-the-beaten-path finds, we're here to inspire your wanderlust and maybe even spark your next adventure.
Whether you love diving into unique places, uncovering hidden gems, or just dreaming about where to go next, this is the place for you.
So, if you're as curious about the world as we are, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications.
Now, let's dive into today's list and see what the world has in store.
Welcome back. Today, we're hitting the East Coast, getting granular with what really sets each state apart.
Going deeper than just, clam chowder and fall foliage.
Pinpoint some best and worst of each state. But we're not just listing them off. We want to see what these facts actually tell us about the culture and the vibe of each place.
Like, what's the story behind the stats?
Totally. So let's kick things off way up north. Maine. Known for its beauty, lobsters, and apparently being a dog's paradise. They're the top state for dog owners. No breed restrictions, tons of dog-friendly beaches. What do you think that says about Maine?
Well, it screams outdoor lifestyle, right? A place where people are out and about with their pups, lots of trust and community.
It's like having a dog is just part of the Maine experience.
Built into the DNA.
But there's always a flip side. Maine also has the highest rate of Lyme disease in the country. Gotta be a connection there, right?
Yeah, you can't have all those happy dogs running through the woods and beaches without some tick risks. It's a trade-off.
Makes you think. Speaking of trade-offs, let's scoot over to New Hampshire. Lowest unemployment in the U.S., but also the highest average college tuition. How does that work?
Good question. Are those pricey degrees actually leading to good jobs? Or are people graduating with tons of debt for nothing?
It's a gamble, for sure. If you're thinking of moving there for work, it's something to really weigh.
Yeah, the job market's one thing, but overall financial well-being is another. And speaking of well-being, New Hampshire also has a really high rate of bullying in schools.
Oh, wow. That's tough to hear. You'd think beautiful scenery, tight-knit communities, wouldn't that create a more supportive environment for kids?
You think so, right? But here's the thing, despite that, New Hampshire's been ranked #1 for child well-being for 2 years straight.
Wait, hold up. How's that even possible?
It makes you think, it's like bullying's a problem, obviously, but something else is going right. Maybe it's that community, maybe the nature, the schools themselves. Rankings don't tell the whole story.
True. We gotta look deeper than just the headlines. And speaking of going deeper, let's head to a state known for wholesomeness and apparently happiness. Vermont.
Vermont. Rolling hills, those quaint towns, maple syrup everywhere. They've also got the fewest fast food joints per person in the whole U.S.
Okay, now that's interesting. Could their happiness be linked to not having fast food?
I mean, it's possible, isn't it? We know food impacts our mood big time. Maybe Vermont's focus on fresh local stuff, their slower pace of life, it all adds up.
Food for thought, literally. While Vermont might have happiness figured out, let's see how they do on healthcare. We gotta head south to Massachusetts, which just stole the top health ranking from Hawaii.
Massachusetts has always been known for good healthcare. Those famous hospitals, tons of mental health providers.
That's a big plus. They're definitely putting their residents' well-being first. But what about that Boston traffic? Doesn't that take a toll on people?
Oh, for sure. Hours stuck in traffic. That's got to be stressful. Maybe all those mental health resources help balance it out, though.
Or maybe Bostonians have some secret stress-busting techniques.
Maybe it's all that clam chowder.
Speaking of which, next stop is Rhode Island. Amazing clam chowder. And apparently they're the kings of donuts.
Donut kings. That's right. Most donut shops per person anywhere in the U.S. A sweet tooth dream.
I'm already planning a Rhode Island donut tour, but amidst all that sweetness, they've also got the highest depression rate in the country. That's a wild contrast.
It really is. Like, indulging in treats isn't the whole happiness equation. Something deeper is going on there. Maybe the economy, maybe just the state itself.
You can't judge a state by its donuts alone, I guess.
Speaking of judging, let's hop over to Connecticut. They seem to have a complicated relationship with wealth.
Complicated, how so?
Well, they've got the highest average income per person in the U.S. Super affluent. But they've also got notoriously bad roads.
Yeah.
Kind of strange, right?
Yeah, you'd think with all that money, the roads would be pristine. Maybe their priorities are different.
Right. Like they're rich, but maybe not investing in infrastructure the way you'd expect. Makes you wonder about the trade-offs.
And speaking of trade-offs, Connecticut's also got some of the highest property taxes in the country. Doesn't seem to match their focus on education.
But remember, they've got Yale. Maybe they're attracting a highly educated crowd who's willing to pay a premium for that lifestyle, that access.
It's like they're investing in people, not just roads.
Different approach, for sure. It's wild how each state has its own thing, and priorities. Speaking of which, next up is Maryland. They seem to love wealth and a certain crustacean.
Maryland, huh? During those crab feasts. But what's this about wealth?
Oh, they've got a ton of millionaire households. 1 in 12. Seems like a good place to be if you're aiming for financial success.
Maybe I should learn to crack crabs properly and move south. I'm sure there's got to be a catch, right? Every state's got its quirks.
Oh, definitely. And Maryland's, well, you might want to check your hotel room carefully. Baltimore just topped the list for bedbug infestations again.
Yikes, not exactly the high roller lifestyle I had in mind. Even in a wealthy state, you can't escape those everyday problems, I guess.
It's true. And speaking of problems, Maryland's also got one of the highest debt-to-income ratios in the country.
So it's not all crab cakes and mansions, then. Seems like there's a flip side to all that prosperity.
Yeah, it's like high income doesn't equal financial stability. Makes you think about the cost of living there, the pressure to keep up appearances.
Okay, let's head south again to a state known for history and apparently patriotism. Virginia.
Virginia, the OG state, right? Birthplace of presidents, all those historical landmarks. They're often called the most patriotic state, and I can see why.
Yeah, I can practically hear the fife and drum music. But hold on, what about those speeding tickets in Virginia? I've heard stories.
Oh, those are legendary. Up to $2,500. Better watch your speed if you're road tripping through Virginia.
Noted. Don't want to mess with that. But wait, there's another twist. Virginia also has a pretty bad track record with mail delivery.
Yeah, it's true. They're at an all-time low for on-time delivery. Seems like even with all that history, they've got some modern-day hiccups.
Even the most traditional places have their struggles, huh? Speaking of which, let's jump to a state with a tough reputation and a love for diners. New Jersey.
The Garden State, home of the diner, as everyone knows, can always find a cozy booth, some good coffee, classic comfort food.
Already craving a Taylor ham, egg, and cheese. But those cozy diners don't exactly match New Jersey's reputation for, shall we say, aggressive drivers?
Ah, yes, those Jersey drivers. Whether it's a stereotype or not, it's something to be aware of.
But before we get caught in traffic, let's talk about something else New Jersey does well. Public education.
Oh, yeah. They consistently rank high for that. They really invest in their kids' future.
That's great to hear. Maybe there is a connection between that strong community vibe and their focus on education. Like, those diners aren't just about food. They're also where they build a culture that values learning.
Love that idea. Those late-night diner talks, shaping young minds.
Makes you think differently about a late-night cheesesteak, huh? Okay, let's head west to a state known for its chocolate, its hills, and a surprising number of hunters. Pennsylvania, here we come.
Pennsylvania, the Keystone State. You've got Hershey, the sweetest place on earth, but also this strong connection to nature, a long tradition of hunting.
It's a funny combo, right? Chocolate and hunting, like they embrace both sides of life, the sweet and the rugged.
It shows how much variety Pennsylvania has. One day you're indulging in candy, the next you're out in the woods.
But hold on, before we book a trip, we gotta talk about those gas prices. I hear Pennsylvania's got some killer gas taxes.
Oh yeah, they're the highest in the U.S. Not great for road trips, but maybe it's how they keep up their infrastructure. All those scenic routes.
Good point. And speaking of those routes, there's another thing to watch out for in Pennsylvania. Deer. Lots of them.
It's true. Big deer population there. And those collisions can be nasty. Gotta stay alert, especially on those country roads.
So Pennsylvania's all about balance, huh? Enjoying the scenery, but watching out for deer and budgeting for gas.
Part of the adventure. And speaking of adventure, our last stop on this East Coast leg is a state that often gets overlooked, but it's full of surprises. Delaware.
Delaware, the first state. Gotta admit, I don't know much about it. What hidden gems are we about to discover?
Well, get this. Delaware is a business haven. Over 66% of Fortune 500 companies are incorporated there.
Whoa, seriously? That's wild. I always thought Delaware was just like quiet and small. What's their secret?
It's all about the taxes and their court system. Super business friendly. Delaware might be tiny, but it's a corporate powerhouse.
Don't judge a state by its size, right? Always more than meets the eye. But before we get all corporate, let's appreciate something else Delaware's got going on. That small town charm.
Oh yeah, Delaware's a place to slow down, enjoy those close-knit communities, soak up the history.
Sounds like a nice change of pace from the bigger cities. But here's something people might not expect about Delaware. It's not exactly known for its nightlife.
True, they're actually dead last in the rankings for nightlife. Not a party state. but maybe that's part of the appeal for some people.
And I get it. Maybe it's a place where people value different things. Quiet evenings, community events, just peace and quiet. So as we wrap up our East Coast adventure, what are some key takeaways that stand out to you?
For me, it's that reminder that places are kind of like people, full of surprises. You can't just go by stereotypes or what you see on the surface.
You got to go deeper, right? See past the tourist traps and the Instagram filters.
Exactly. And I think these deep dives help us do that. We're seeing the real heart and soul of each place, the good and the bad.
It's been eye-opening for sure. So for everyone listening, here's a question to think about. Based on what we've learned today, which East Coast state are you most curious about now? Which one would you want to explore more?
It's a good question. And as you're exploring, remember, every journey, whether you're actually traveling or just learning something new, it's a chance to discover something amazing.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this East Coast deep dive, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep diving deep.